The Castle and the Scroll, Part 2. We turned away from the tree and began to run toward the edge of the forest. No sound was heard behind us. The silence was more frightening than the earlier sounds of carnage. We ran all the way to our homes without stopping. For a long time we didn't speak, for we were both suffering from shock. "Let's never go to the forest again," Lily said at last. "I agree," I said. "I don't understand. That voice, who was that?" "That was the dragon," said Lily. "My father told me that they will sometimes speak. They do it to lure people into the forest." "Why didn't you ever tell me?" I asked. "I didn't think it was true," she said. "Besides, I tried to tell you, but you didn't listen. What was wrong with you?" I thought back to the feelings I had when I heard the voice. "I don't know how to describe it," I said. "It was as if I was under some kind of charm or evil magic. I couldn't resist." "You must believe," Lily said. "Only true believers of the great king can resist the dragon's deceitfulness. They are liars." "Does that mean I don't believe?" I asked, filled with sincere concern for my soul. "Does that mean I'm not in his army?" "I don't know," Lily said, her eyes full of tears. "But those men are dead. That could have been us, Caleb. That image will haunt me forever." "That dragon was black," I said in continued shock. "I thought the dragons were only red." "Me too," Lily said, trying to speak amongst her tears. "I've never heard of a black dragon." "You don't suppose it was a dragon, do you? You don't suppose it was the dragon, do you?" "No," I replied, "but whatever it was, it said that one of us were special." I tried to hold back my tears. "You don't think it'll come after us, do you?" "It can't," Lily said. "Dragons never leave the forest. But still, what if it lures us again, or does the same to one of our neighbors or friends?" I felt a conviction rise from deep within me. Even at such a young age, I knew that something must be done. "We must get help," I said. "We can't fight for the great king on our own. We need to be trained." "How?" asked Lily. "We need to go to a castle," I replied. "But your parents won't let you go to a castle," Lily said. "And my family only goes to the castle twice a year, during the festivals." "We must try to find a way," I pleaded. "But Caleb," she said, "maybe your parents are correct. Maybe it's impossible to kill dragons. I don't see how in the world we could have killed that dragon today. They're invincible." I didn't know what to think. My mind was filled with all kinds of emotions, mainly doubt. I kept trying to erase from my mind the final image I saw of those two men in their last moment on this earth. "I don't want to not believe," I said after some time. "I want the great king to be real. The thought of him being only a fairy tale breaks my heart. It makes me feel empty." Lily was still crying. "I want him to be real too," she said. "I'm just afraid. The dragons scare me." "Don't be afraid, Lily," I said. "I will learn how to fight dragons, and I will protect you." "How?" "I'm going to go to the castle. Tomorrow's King's Day, and all the soldiers of the great king will be assembling, and I'll be there." "The sun is setting," Lily said. "I must go home." "Are you going to be all right?" I asked. "Yes, I just need to get some sleep," she said. "I will see you tomorrow." "Of course," I said, my heart drawn back to this young girl who was my dearest friend. "I will come to get you, and together we will go to the castle of the great king." I turned to go home, and then I heard Lily's voice. "Caleb," she said. I turned to her. "Down with the dragon and all of his race," she said, trying to force a smile. "Down with the dragon and all of his race," I repeated. That evening, as I lay in bed, my mind was racing. The events of that day seemed like a dream. Though I knew it was real, I knew they were real. I had heard the rumbling of dragons before, and had spoken to those who had seen them, but I had never had an encounter with a dragon, and this dragon was black as night. What did that mean? Despite my doubts and questions, my heart was resolute. I would learn how to fight dragons. I would follow the great king. I would be able to protect Lily, and I would never be deceived by a dragon again. I meditated on how the dragon had said that it was excited to meet one of us. I wondered what that meant. Did it know who I was? Did it know that my grandparents were dragon fighters? A shiver ran up my spine. As I began to drift to sleep, a dream quickly came to me. I dreamt that a giant black dragon was walking throughout my village, searching for me. I could hear it, stepping and slithering through the alleys. But dragons never exit the forest, I thought of myself. And yet the dream continued. It was peering in window after window, its yellow eyes piercing into the darkness, looking for its prey. Every home was one less home to search. Soon it would come to its desired location. I then dreamt that in frustration, the beast began to set homes ablaze. Smoke, sulfur, and fire poured from its mouth. The dream was so real I could feel the heat of the flames and could smell the smoke. It was getting hotter. My skin began to sweat. My lungs began to burn. Suddenly I awoke, coughing and confused. I wasn't sure how much of my dream was true, but one thing was certain. The fire was real. My entire room was quickly being overcome with flames. Chapter 3. I could scarcely see anything amidst the heat of the smoke. I felt I would pass out at any moment, and quickly fell upon the floor, reaching over with eyes closed to where I thought the window was. I sprang upon the window with such force that the shutters burst open, and I tumbled outside to the ground. The flames were all around me, and at that moment I observed that the fire wasn't restricted to my house alone. It seemed like the entire village was consumed. "Run, boy!" said a robed figure not too far away. Everything was in chaos. People were everywhere. The flames and smoke were all across the landscape. I felt that I was going to burst into flames myself, for the heat was unbearable. Only one thing was in my mind: Lily. I immediately tried to run to her house, but it was difficult because the heat was so unforgiving. I got to where I could see her home. It was engulfed and fully ablaze. The same robed figure I saw before now took hold of me. "Run away from the fire," he commanded. "It'll soon kill us all. Run!" I ran toward the pastures, which were fortunately close to my home. I called out for my parents. No answer. The next few hours were filled with screams and pandemonium, which set in my mind like a fogged nightmare. Soon the sun was rising, and most of the fires had finished their work, still smoldering in the rubble. Half of our village was left in ruins. All of the village had assembled in the village square, except for those still helping recover victims and finish off the flames. I searched and searched for both Lily and my parents, but to no avail. "Lily!" I shouted. "Lily! Mother! Father!" It was light enough now to move about safely. I quickly ran back to my home. Nothing left but ashes. I then went to Lily's home. It was also gone. I called out again for her, but no answer. "She's gone," said a voice. It was a kind lady who lived close by, who I only knew by sight. I heard her screams only a few seconds before the structure collapsed. "She and her parents are gone. I fear that your parents were also taken, but praise the fates that you're safe." I refused to accept the woman's words. I ran to the other side of Lily's house for some sign of her escape, and there I was faced with the hard truth. 3 corpses, like the likes of which I will not try to describe, were left within the destruction. They were charred and horrid, and were clearly the remains of the 2 adults and a child. I fell to my knees, weeping in the same day. In the same day I had lost my parents and my soulmate, my 3 closest friends. I was now an orphan, just as my mother had been, and Lily, the girl who had captured my heart, was dead. I had no one, no next of kin, no friends. Someone might take me in, out of pity, but I didn't want it. At that fateful moment, something happened inside of me. There were 2 things that I was certain of, which that day were seared upon my mind. First, I was on my own, and second, that the great king was only a fairy tale. My mother was right. There was no great king. There was no such thing as killing dragons. Never again would I say down with the dragons and all of his race. That part of me was dead. A darkness entered my heart, and a new emotion which I had never known became real to me. The emotion of bitterness. There, only a few feet away from Lily's home, were our toy weapons still unscathed upon the ground. I picked up my sword and her bow and threw them within the ashes which still fumed. "You have anyone?" the woman asked. "No," I replied, my eyebrows free from tears, my soul free from emotion. "You can stay with me if you'd like," she said kindly, "for a time, until we can find you another home." "No," I said, "I can't stay here. I'm going far away. Farewell." I walked to the west, never looking back. For many years I roamed from village to village, living off the mercy of others. I always avoided the castles in every village. A part of my heart hated them, yet another part of me, deep down, was still drawn to them. At the age of 15, I found steady work at a blacksmith shop in the village of Greystone. The owner, a kind man named William, hired me as his apprentice. He was a childless widower, and I became a son to him. He taught me everything he knew about blacksmithing for the first time in years. For the first time in years, I had a home and something resembling a parent. My hope and joy regarding life began to return, slowly. My life was simple and reserved. I worked most of the day and stayed mainly to myself. My only friends were William and the occasional visit from a young man named Justin. I met Justin only a few weeks after coming into the service of William. He was from my home village in Ravenhill. "I am also from Ravenhill," I said, a part of me fascinated in seeing one of my own people. "How did you end up here in Greystone?" he asked kindly. "I left after the Great Fire." "That was a terrible time for our people," he said solemnly. "It took our village many months to recover, though now, by the grace of the great king, we are prosperous again." When Justin mentioned the great king, a pit entered my stomach. I guessed that he noticed the slight reaction upon my face. "Justin comes here every 8 weeks or so with crops for some of our people," William explained. "We barter with him some of our own goods." Justin and William then entered into negotiations which seemed very familiar for both of them. Justin had potatoes, onions, carrots, and kale. William traded him wheel bearings, nails, and horseshoes. "It was nice to meet you, Caleb," Justin said. "It's always nice to meet a fellow citizen of Ravenhill." "Likewise," I replied, trying to be civil. "But that place is no longer my home. All that I loved was reduced to ashes on that day." "I'm sorry," he replied, "but be assured that even though the great king's ways don't always make sense to us, they are always part of his ultimate plan." I had no reply for such words, and so I simply nodded my head as a sign of respect. Justin packed up his wagon and headed back to Ravenhill. William spoke concerning Justin as he rode over the plains. "He's a good man," he said. "He brings good trade to this village, and he is extremely generous to the widow and her 5 children across the way. He is obviously an ardent follower of the great king. I myself have never seen a need for the castle, but I do respect Justin for his character." "With all due respect to Justin," I replied, "he's fooled. The great king is not real." "You may be correct," William answered, "but, with the dragons multiplying and their influence upon mankind, one can only hope that he is real." "Influence?" I asked. Supposed influence sounds better. It's never been proven that they influence anyone." "It has to me," William said. "Whenever the dragons get closer to the edge of the forest, something seems to happen to the hearts of people. You cannot deny, Caleb, that there is such a thing as good and evil. The dragons, they are the epitome of evil. My question is, who then is the epitome of good?" I had no answer to give. I'm going to pause that.